We are reacting to this game and some of the conversation and controversy. 71-69 game. Iowa takes it away. I don't even really want to go down those stats like that. I want to get into what I really want to get into. Is it a foul? Is it not a foul? That's what people really want to know. That's what people really want to have the conversation. I watched that game live. I'm seeing it in real time. I'm looking at how they're calling the games. Yes, that was a foul. I hate to break it to you guys, you fans of different sports and things of that nature. That was a foul. It is what it is. I'm going to prove that by slowing it down. You tell me what you see. They call this an offensive foul. 3.9 seconds left to go. I'm going to even look up the definition as to what an illegal screen is. The back foot lets us know that this is an illegal screen. The upper body, this would be set. Right foot still moving. This looks like the initial contact right here. But even if the right foot isn't moving, that upper body is still leaning into her. There's no way that you can say that that is not some sort of illegal screen. There's no way. And for the people that are saying, okay, it is an illegal screen, but you can't call it at that sort of time, why? You can't let it be decided at that sort of time. Why? You are a machine baby. You are a byproduct of the machine that is out there. Literally, you are a product of the machine. If you want them to go against what actually actively happened, which was a foul, in order for them to leave it in the hands of players. So what are we saying at that point? Where does it stop? If somebody rakes somebody across the face, we got to let it ride because we're leaving it in the player's hands. If somebody trips somebody, well, we got to let it slide because I want to leave it in the player's hands. When does it end? If it's a foul, it's a foul. Period. Point blank. We can talk about the other fouls that were called in the game. I think that that would be perfectly fine. The ones that were called and the ones that weren't called. But the people specifically saying that this was not a foul are products of the big brands, the NBA. That's the only way that this would make sense. I'm trying to find, there's a NBA website where they give you visual explanation and all that stuff. A screen is legal action by any player with or without the ball, which, without causing contact, delays or prevents an opponent from reaching a desired position. A screener must be inbounds and maintain a normal stance with the inside of the screener's feet no wider than shoulder width apart. If a player is engaged in illegal screening tactics and there is no contact with the opponent, no foul has occurred. Players must adhere to the screening rules outlined in Rule 4-35. A foul shall be called when a defensive player is held or pushed off their intended path around a screen by use of arms, legs, or body. A defensive player holds or pushes through the screen using the arms, legs, or body. The screener extends the hips or buttocks to displace the defender who is attempting to move around the screen. The screener extends the legs beyond legal width and trips a defender who is attempting to move around the screen. The screener sets a blind screen outside of the visual field on a stationary defender that doesn't allow the defender a normal step to move. The screener sets a blind screen outside of the visual field on a moving defender and doesn't allow ample time. I think number 4 right here is where it is. Now, again, I know that a lot of people are accustomed to NBA style screens. One of the more egregious screens that were set this night was on Draymond Green for the Golden State Warriors, and they let this slide. We definitely talk about it quite often, how screens get abused and how plays are called and officiated and stuff like that. We cannot ignore that this was the right call. We cannot simply say, oh, that they should just let it play out. We don't want it in the player's hand, or we want it in the player's hand. We don't want it in the official's hands. That's not what it's about. If you believe in the integrity of the game, then something like this is a clear foul to you. That's somebody leaning into somebody. In what world is that not an illegal screen? I really want to get into the game. I really do. I really want to get into the game because stuff like this, when we have these stupid ass conversations on the internet, stuff like this takes away from the fact that both UConn and Iowa played a great game. I want to talk about the defensive scheme that Gino put into this Iowa game, taking Caitlin Clark out in the first half. I want to talk about and big up Nakia Mule for how great she did. I want to talk about how Gabby Marshall did a great job of slowing down the Paige Beckers in the first half of this game and in the second half, really. I want to talk about Caitlin Clark's teammates stepping up. I want to talk about Iowa or UConn's players stepping up. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the adjustments that are made. But we have to sit here, and because somebody you didn't like won the game, we're sitting here and we're nitpicking specific plays. I'm not saying officiating got it all right. I think officiating has come into question a lot. But we're not about to sit here and nitpick every single play. This is a play that I think officiating got wrong. This was a foul on KK Arnold. There are other plays in this game that are just like this, going the other way, but you won't see them. You won't be able to see those because people believe that there's some sort of agenda going out there. Again, if you're used to these type of plays, if you're used to these types of screens, then obviously you would wonder why somebody would call it. No, they didn't call that screen on Draymond Green. No, they didn't call this. If you're used to things like that, sure, 100%, 100,000%. You won't understand what's going on here. But if you are so bitter that you are sitting here instead of looking at the great game, and this is really to those that are talking about the women's game needs this boost. You know, we want people to watch the women's game, et cetera, et cetera. But then when people start watching, we're having this much criticism, specifically about one player. If you're going to sit here and nitpick all these calls, they're asking, is this an offensive foul? And if we're going to sit here and do this, instead of looking at the totality of the picture, we're going to sit here, have a 5-hour game, and it'll be boring for everybody. It'll be fucking garbage for everybody. I'd love to talk about Kate Martin, but we can't because we have to sit here and talk about these stupid calls from these people who talk about the purity and integrity of the women's game as opposed to the men's game. But when it doesn't fit their narrative or when it's not in favor of them, they have a problem. And that's wrong. That is absolutely wrong. I'm not saying that everybody has to be on the bandwagon. They have to be behind this historic run. They even have to like Caitlin Clark. I'm not saying that. Don't contradict yourself. Don't fall into the genjutsu that they're putting out there for you to believe that they're rigging it up for a Caitlin Clark. If they were rigging it up for a Caitlin Clark, why did they put them in quite literally the hardest portion of the bracket? If we look at the entirety of this bracket, I'm about to pull up the bracket right now. If we look at the entirety of the bracket going into this, they are on the hardest side of the bracket. They have the hardest path to the championship. If you wanted something easier, put them on the easy side. But we're talking about them playing a tough West Virginia team. We're talking about them playing a tough Colorado team, or they would have had to play a tough K-State team, which they lost to earlier this year. On this other side, they played LSU, or would have had to play UCLA, two tough teams. They ended up playing LSU. Those are all tough teams. That's the toughest. This is the toughest region in the entirety of the mix of college basketball for the women's side. This over here, come on now. They got some good teams. I won't take it away from these other regions, but it's not as tough as the one that Iowa had to get through. So Iowa had to beat West Virginia, Colorado, potentially K-State, LSU, potentially UCLA, and UConn just to get to the championship. Come on, bro. Think with your fucking heads. Think with your heads for 2 seconds. If y'all think that they wanted to scheme it up so Caitlin Clark has an easy path to the championship, why would they not put her in an easier bracket? Why would they not put her in an easier region? It's tough when your favorite team loses. I understand that wholeheartedly, but they're not rigging it up so she can win the games. They're good, and that's okay. That's literally okay. I don't want this situation in which there could be a lot of positivity in the game to be marred by this bullshit. There could be a lot of positivity going on towards college basketball, but it's bullshit from both sides. And we know where one side is coming from. We know the side that's attacking the Angel Reeses of the world. They have an agenda that is even bigger than basketball itself. Some of those people have race-based opinions, have gender-based opinions. It's bigger than basketball. I really don't think that they would rig up Caitlin Clark with the worst bracket, the worst region in the bracket, in order to push her to get to the finals. I really just do not think that will be the case. That's just my perspective. I want to get more into the game, actually, and I want to watch some film breakdown. I even want to talk about the foul disparity. I wish they had a place where we could go through every foul, kind of like ESPN or NBA.com does. There was a foul disparity in the game. There was a free throw disparity in the game. If we look at it right here, Iowa had 9 fouls to UConn's 18 fouls. And somebody would ask, well, why did they do that? They're an aggressive team. UConn is just an aggressive team. They played aggressively with Caitlin Clark. Why would they not end up with a good amount of fouls, a lot of fouls? And UConn had some pretty wide open shots. Why would they not end up with less fouls? I don't think I understand that. I really don't. And the USC game, the USC UConn game, UConn ended up with 21 fouls. They ended up with more fouls than USC, and they still came out and won. What were we saying it then? Do we want a larger disparity? Obviously, this is the team that fouls. Come on now. And I don't even have to look at it, and I know it's the same perpetrators of the fouls that were fouling. We're talking about a foul-heavy team. Why is it What are we really saying? Why do y'all want to spin this narrative? That Duke game, they had 11 fouls. I'll give them that. And go to another one. Let me go to another one. Come on now. In the Syracuse game, in which they won pretty decently, I think Deja Fair brought it close towards the end. UConn had 14 fouls to Syracuse's 13 fouls. Let's stop, bro. Let's stop. Let's not pretend like they don't foul. Stop with the narrative. It doesn't work no more. It literally does not work no more.